I wasn't uncomfortable with that at all, but I'm also a guy who's super narcissistic and takes advantage of people, although I never learned the error of my ways. Change the accent and up the racism, and I definitely know Scott Carlin in real life, but I wouldn't really call myself the king of the Eastern Shore. This week, we're talking about King of Staten Island on the Everyman Movie Review. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for yet another episode of the Everyman Movie Review. This week we're going to be talking about King of Staten Island, the newest from Judd Apatow, and a surprising performance from Pete Davidson. Is this movie worth your 2 hours of time? Well, by the end of this review, I hope you have a clearer understanding of the movie and whether or not you should check it out. Along the way, we'll have a little bit of a spoiler section, and of course at the end, my recommendation. But before we get into that, right off the top, I'd like to say a thank you to all the frontline workers, the nurses and doctors in the hospitals, the store workers who are keeping those shelves stocked, and the Uber drivers who are getting me around where I need to go and getting food to me when I don't feel like eating my own crappy cooking for the 19th day in a row. Thank you for making quarantine a little bit easier, and since it looks like we're going to be quarantined for a little while longer now, please be safe while you're out there. So King of Staten Island. As I said in the intro, I know about 10 guys who are exactly like Scott Carlin, Pete Davidson's character in this movie, including the tattoos, the philosophy on life, the, how well they're doing kind of now, and all of them have less reason to be so messed up than Scott Carlin has. And I did a video a couple weeks ago now about a white privilege and how I came to realize about how my life has been different than my nephew's life will be. You can find that video up here. And I will say that one of my takeaways from the research and thinking about that video was, as much as I tried to become Scott Carlin, everything in my life was propelling me out of that. And now I find myself here, 36, living in LA, chasing a dream, and still chasing. But before we get too far into the discussion, let's get through the pleasantry, shall we? The King of Staten Island was directed by Judd Apatow. It was written by Judd Apatow, along with Pete Davidson and Dave Sirus. It is starring Pete Davidson as the protagonist, Scott Carlin, Bel Powley as Kelsey in a fantastic performance, Ricky Velez as Oscar, Lou Wilson as Richie, and a note, I didn't recognize it until I sat down to do this review, but Richie is the guy from American Vandal, the first season of American Vandal on Netflix. Like, it's the same guy, and the roles are similar and yet so different. Just of note, if you haven't seen American Vandal, you should also check that. Moises Arias as Igor, Carly Aquilino as Tara, Marissa Tomei in her first, super mommy role. She was Aunt May in Spider-Man, but she was still hot Aunt May, but she's a fully on a mom now. Happily, Maude Apatow makes an appearance as Claire Carlin. Kevin Corrigan shows up as Joe. Keith Robinson as the security guard. Rich Voss and Bonnie McFarlane show up in a little bit of a cameo appearance. Steve Buscemi, Jimmy Tatro, Giselle King, John Sorrentino, Dominic Lombardozzi, and others as the firefighter crew. And of course, Bill Burr as Ray Bishop, kind of our entree to that firefighter crew. Pamela Adlon as Ray's ex-wife. Machine Gun Kelly as a tattoo shop owner. Robert Smigel of SNL fame makes a cameo as well. And basically there's cameos from a lot of comedians who you won't know by name, but you'll recognize their face. And I'm guessing they're friends with Judd Apatow or with Pete Davidson, and just everyone seems to fit their character so perfectly. Like Richie Voss as the guy who's complaining about his meal at a restaurant, that's him. And they seem to choose friends of theirs who are just basically typecasted into a role, and it just made for a fantastic overall performance by the entire cast. So The King of New York basically is about Scott Carlin, and he is a guy in his early 20s living in his mom's basement. He wants to be a tattoo artist. He's a really good artist. Not such a good tattoo artist at all. He's trying to get a role working at a tattoo shop, but he hasn't really been able to get that together. So he's just kind of a loser who hangs out with his loser friends. And hangs out with a couple of girls who are way out of his league, but for some reason, they're stuck in the same neighborhood in Staten Island that he's stuck in. And so they're like, hey, there's nothing better around. I guess we can hang out with these guys. And they do. And Scott's got one of them. But in typical, Rob fashion, he's like, hey, you're pretty good and I'm real messed up, so let's keep this on the low. And although auspiciously maybe it's because I'm a little embarrassed that we're doing this, it's not that. It's you could do so much better. And I don't want your friends to know that this is going on, because if they know, they're going to tell you, you could do so much better. Why are you wasting your time? So let's just keep it on the DL. And then I'm going to end up ruining this by doing something really dumb. And Scott Carlin, what I'm saying is I'm essentially him. Minus the tattoos, of course, with a little more life direction, having accomplished something more, but mentally, 100% Scott Carlin. And maybe that's why this movie resonated with me so much, is that I was able to put myself in the character. And it's kind of funny because other people I know who have seen it said the same thing. And I look at them and I don't see Scott Carlin, but then I realize they look at me and they don't see Scott Carlin. And I think Pete Davidson and Judd Apatow here were able to just like harness something. They were able to create this character that is a little bit of everybody, and it's really just a little bit of the worst of everybody, or maybe like that feeling of like not being enough, not being complete. And everybody has a little bit of that. And if we all take our little bits and we dump that into one person, that becomes Scott. Now, Scott has a reason, for being the way that he is. He was a young kid when his father, who was a firefighter, went charging into a building to save some people and tragically died. And so now he's got kind of fears of everything, the outside. He's got social anxiety, smokes a lot of pot to try and get through that, but has his friends, same friends he's been with forever, friends with them forever. They've been doing the same thing forever. And if you were to take that neighborhood out of Staten Island and deposit it in the small town of Denton, Maryland, whereabouts I'm from, I, again, would know a ton of people like this. I could see myself being that guy, and in fact, I know those guys currently. Guys who think that their way out is going to be a tattoo artist. And, back in Art 12, they were really good artists. But then I see some of the tattoos that they've done, and no. But they're also not willing to make the sacrifice that's necessary in order to do that. I mean, listen, I would love to jump into the entertainment business by going and working as an underpaid intern somewhere, or, working as a writer's assistant, but those guys don't make much money, and I'm too old to be sharing a 2-bedroom with 4 people. I need my space, and I need a bed that's big enough for me to stretch out in so I'm not sore the next morning, and I can't be kept up by somebody snoring 4 feet away from me. And maybe if I'd come out in my 20s, I would have been able to do that. But now I can't, so I can't take that job. And it's like a cycle. I can't get out of my own way, but being in my own way keeps me from making progress because I can't get the intro job to get me the next job. So I'm just kind of hoping that the lottery plays out. And that's a lot of what Scott's doing too. He just kind of has the feeling like things will work out. It's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And his mom, played by Marisa Tomei, has kind of had this same focus as well. She lost her husband when her kids were small, and now she's focused on raising her kids. And Scott's kind of a lost cause, but her younger daughter, Claire, played by Maude Apatow, is graduating and going off to college, so she's basically done with that work. And maybe for the first time, she can kind of relax and look at her own life. And the first time that she does that, she meets Ray Bishop, played by Bill Burr, in, I don't want to say something typical for him. I guess he's kind of that guy who plays like an annoying stepdad because that's just who he is. Like he comes off as that annoying stepdad. And he does a lot of his own material, stuff that I've seen on his specials, or I've heard from him before on different podcasts, or you've seen in F is for Family, which is also available on Netflix. But it's a lot of all of those things are him. So he's kind of playing himself when he plays like a guy who's out of his first marriage, now dating again, looking for a second chance, trying to renew his life, and meets a girl and just loses it, and now they're all a little codependent, but also just I have some friends, here's where I am in life. I have some friends who are already out of their first marriages, looking at their second marriages. And I have dodged the bullet 5 times. So luckily I'm not in that situation, but I see those guys and I just see that fear of I'm going to be alone forever. The thing from Fight Club, you buy a couch and you think, well, no matter what happens, I have that couch situation figured out. And these are people who got married really young and maybe even had kids really young. And they're like, well, at least I have that whole situation figured out. I know who I'm going to be coming home to for the rest of my life. And then they get divorced. And now they're like, am I going to be alone? Am I going to die alone? Is a cat or a dog or, I don't know, an iguana or something going to eat my toes off until somebody finds me? And that terror, that fear, kind of drives the way that they date after that. And I'm not saying that that's how Marisa Tomei and Bill Burr are dating. It's just that same kind of you'll do. It's not perfect, but you're not in your 20s anymore. You're not, I got a list of 40 things, and if they don't check all 40 boxes, I'm going to hit them to the curb. There's like a popularized meme recently where it's just like, as you get older, that list gets real short. And like now, women who are my age, and I'm not looking, of course, I'm very happy in my relationship. I'm not going to die alone. But if I was single, my list would kind of be short. Employed? Psychopath? No? Okay. Well, how many red flags? I could put up with some. Not a huge amount, but way more than I did when I was 20. Okay, that's not true either. Maybe as many as I did when I was 20, but not as many as I did when I was 25. I think that's going to be where the rule is. So Scott has kind of been running his mom's life, and now that his sister's out of the house, mom is going off and living her own life. And when she meets Ray and brings Ray in, he is not happy about this. I have been the man. I'm the guy. Yeah, I don't have my shit together, but I'm still the guy, right? But now there's this other guy, and so they butt heads. And yeah, listen, King of Staten Island is a feel-good movie in a time when we need feel-good movies. It doesn't take the path that you necessarily realize it's going to take. Once it starts down the way it's going to go, then you're like, oh, okay, I see. But it doesn't necessarily take the path you would predict at the beginning. And I think that that's refreshing. It's a different take on something that has been done before. And in these times where we were like, yeah, we're coming out of quarantine. Nope, just kidding. Looks like we're going to be stuck inside for a while longer. I think that kind of feel-good movie is strong. It's really what we need. And it's the kind of movie that can bring us together. And all of my friends watched it together as a group movie night. People who've been quarantined together before, not a party. People I've been around this entire time. But I feel like I'm bordering on spoilers. So let's take the opportunity here. If you don't want to hear the spoilers, check the time down below, skip down to the end of the spoilers section, and we'll come back around for the final thoughts and my recommendations. But do it now because the spoiler is about to start right here. So I would not have called that the way that this movie was going to go is that, Ray and Scott are going to fight, and Marissa's going to basically cut both of them off. And she's going to go on a, living my best life summer with her friends. One of her friends, by the way, I'm pretty sure is a comedian that I remember from, the mid-aughts doing, Staten Island, Long Island lady humor. And she's, straight up doing mom stuff now, which, again, makes me feel really old. But nonetheless, she's having a, live my best life summer. And those two, Ray has nowhere to go. We find out that his ex-wife kicked him out. She's got basically everything and he's got nothing. So he's living at the firehouse, even on nights when he's not supposed to be there. And Scott has been living in his mom's basement. And so he's got nothing too. And so you kind of see how they're more alike than they are different, and maybe that's why they fight so much. And Scott goes over to Kelsey's house, his girlfriend, or his on again, off again buddy's house or whatever. And of course he screws it up. And as soon as he walked up to the door, I was like, he's gonna blow this. They're going to hook up, but he's going to blow it in the end. Because you know what? I've been there. I've done that before. And he did, of course. So now he's got really nowhere to go. No one wants him around. And so he reaches out to the only other person he can reach out to, Ray. And I didn't see it go in that direction. The thing I kind of left out there is that his friends try to get him roped into this crazy scheme to rob a pharmacy. That's where we see Robert Smigel as the owner of the pharmacy who is shooting at his friends. And he's going to be the getaway driver, but they all get pinched, so they're all locked up. And Igor has an online girlfriend who turns out is real. That was a big twist thing that I did not see coming. So congratulations, guys, you got me on that one. But I just basically thought he was going to go and he was going to live in his friend's house, and that was going to be it. But he goes to see the friend, and the friend's like, no, absolutely not. You're not living in my house. Not going to happen. And so that kind of threw me off, and I'm like, well, what is he going to do? And he ends up going to Ray. And so then it takes us down this path, and once it's down the path, I'm like, oh, okay. I see where this is going now. He's going to get in with the Firehouse guys, who he kind of was, rubbed the wrong way at the baseball game when Ray was trying to, be buddies with him. But he's going to see why his dad did this thing, and it's going to inspire him, and he's going to want to go do that, and he's going to fall in with them, and then maybe he'll be one of their buddies too. And yes, that absolutely ends up happening. But I think it's not just that. It's when you're living in your mom's house and you're the man of the house and nobody's really holding you to account, you need those friends who are just going to give you the no bullshit estimate. They're going to tell you what they really think. Again, I do parody tracks. If you're here for the videos, welcome, but we do parody tracks as well. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But, Corey, Oh the Anthem Podcast, he basically was just like, hey, man, this song is not done. If you think this is done, it's not done. And sometimes you need people to give you that kind of harsh feedback, and you got to be okay with it. You just got to be like, all right, well, I thought I was there. Let me go take a second look. And most often they're right. When you don't have that, you can end up just wallowing around in mediocrity. And that's what Scott was doing. But then he got in with the Firehouse guys. He sees people who are doing something bigger than themselves. It inspires him. Steve Buscemi comes in as like a wise old man. And again, Steve Buscemi is an old guy. And like, when did that happen? And I'm so old. But you know, it's inspirational. And although we don't see him becoming a firefighter by the end, we see him getting serious about his life. You know, a guy comes in and he's stabbed and he's like, instead of being like, whoa, man, I can't even handle this. He's like, all right, I know what to do. Let's go do this thing. It brings them back together. Him and Ray are like bonding with the tattooing, which by the way is terrible and reminiscent of a lot of people I know who do terrible tattoos at home. But it's not just Ray. It's not just Steve Buscemi. It's that. It's that group of guys and girls, like that friend group that isn't letting you wallow in mediocrity, but makes you want to be something better. And that's really what everybody needs. And that's kind of like the feel-goodness of it. It's like, go find those people. You know, you are the accumulation of the 5 people you're around most often. Check your group and see what that group is. And his old group wasn't anything to write home about, but this group can be. And they inspire him to something better. And although we don't see him, again, becoming a firefighter, what we do see is that he wants to get his life together. He chases down Kelsey. He tries to straighten that out. He tries to get things right with her, and it looks like he does towards the end. I give a lot of crap to the people who stay at home when I like branched out and left so many times. Left and failed and went home, and left and failed and went home. And now I've left again, and time will tell whether I fail and go home or I'm out for good this time. But there are some people who just, that's what they're meant to do. That they can be the king of Staten Island. They can be the big fish in that pond, and that's where they're meant to be, or it seems that way. And it's not a bad thing. And I really shouldn't look down on people who do that, because one, I could have done that, but we're all just built differently. And like I said, I see a little bit of Scott in myself, and maybe part of me wishes, and I've said this before on other videos, like I wish that simple kind of like I would stay home and I go work a 9 to 5 and I serve on the town council. I wish that was me. It's not. I'm just always pressed for the next thing and the next big adventure. So that's what brought me here. But neither one of those is better than the other. They're just 2 different options. And again, that feel-good nature of the movie, where as we're wrapping up, you're like, I'm happy about where he is. Like, I love the growth that he's gone through. And maybe because that's reflected back on us a little bit, we feel like we can grow a little bit in that way too. But I'm definitely getting out of the spoiler section. So let's go ahead and close up the spoilers. And we'll invite everybody back in and wrap up this review right now. So I got into this a bit in the spoilers, but I'm just going to throw it back out there now. I think in my life, and comparing Scott to people I know and comparing Scott to myself, I'm reminded of a line from Say Anything. Lloyd Dobler says, you know, I'm just looking for that dare to be great situation. And I feel like that is the defining statement about my life. I am still looking for that dare to be great situation. And for me, that's meant leaving home and branching out and failing and coming back several times, over and over again. And now I am out again, and I guess it remains to be seen whether I'll fail and be home again and have to do that again at 40. And maybe I will, and that's okay. But I think the King of Staten Island gives us this feel-good energy of that dare to be great situation can just be being happy. And I wish, you know, I do more than just the review videos here on the channel. If you have an opportunity to check them out, you can find more videos like that here. But in some of the vlog videos or the ones about my life, I talk about that, like looking for something more and always having that wanderlust for something and never being satiated. And that's kind of driven the way that I am. But I always feel like I wish I could be the guy who works the 9 to 5, comes home, you know, does t-ball or little league, like coaches little league, even if I don't have a kid, but just like do something good for the community. And I tried it. I did. Several times when I was home, I tried to be that guy, and I'm just not that guy. But because I think Scott reflects back on me a bit, and I see myself in him, that feel-good energy of like being satiated by being happy and not looking for the next thing and just enjoying the moment, I feel like that is a huge takeaway from this. And I think everybody can take that same lesson away. Like I said, everybody who I know has seen it has seen a little bit of themselves in Scott Carlin, of both genders and different races, and everyone just kind of sees a little bit of themselves in that depressed Staten Island kid. So I feel like everybody will have that same takeaway. This is also a movie that's kind of like safe for everyone. I wouldn't watch it with parents. I wouldn't watch it with small kids, but there's some weird stuff that happened. Like at one point, Scott tattoos like a 15-year-old or a 10-year-old. Or he thinks he's 15, but he's actually 9. And like I'm just like, oh, I'm glad I didn't watch that with any kids or with any parents. And there's some sexual situations that arise between him and his girlfriend, multiple ones, in fact. Some of them kind of graphic. Not graphic like pornography, but like graphic like you can tell what's happening or what just happened. So yeah, I feel like it's not for every situation, but anyone in my age group, if you are a Gen Yer or a Gen Xer or a millennial or Gen Zer, you're going to be able to find something about this that relates to you. And everybody I know has been able to do that. I think the Gen Zers are going to see a lot of themselves in that. That just feeling of like not really fitting and wondering what's coming next. And then people, my generation, Generation Y, feeling like, oh man, like, did we miss our chance? And like wishing to be back in that guy again. I feel like there's something there for everybody. And because everybody who I watched it with enjoyed it, I can feel safe to say that everybody will enjoy it. There's nothing that really turns you off about this movie, unless bad tattoos turn you off about a movie, because there's some bad tattoos in it. And a guy who is super narcissistic and takes advantage of people around him, but maybe learns the error of his ways. I wasn't uncomfortable with that at all, but I'm also a guy who's super narcissistic and takes advantage of people. Although I never learned the error of my ways. So maybe that was okay for me, and everybody around me just knows that that's how I am, and they're used to it. In any event, I feel like this is a movie anybody can enjoy, and unlike some movies that might have graphic violence or like awkward sexual situations or like other trigger warnings, this is, I mean, other than losing a parent, which is kind of a story motivator here, I think, and even that, he talks about the story later, but then they also talk about how awesome his dad was and stuff that he doesn't know about him. And so I feel like there's some redemption in that as well. If you can get through just that he lost a parent and that's why he is the way that he is, you can get to that redemption story, both for Scott and for his dad, and learn something new about both of them. And so for that reason, I give The King of Staten Island 2 big thumbs up. It's got a medium to long runtime at a little over 2 hours, but the time really does fly by. Like, there's so many good actors playing really great roles, and the story is kind of, everything's motivating the next thing. Even though it doesn't seem like it's all happening kind of in a line, moving towards one conclusion, it is. Catches you by surprise, takes a hard right, takes a hard left, but once you're on that road, you realize like, oh, this is where it was going all along, and you get back comfortable with where you are. And just that feel-good ending is something that we really need in a world where things are kind of unpredictable at the moment. So I highly recommend The King of Staten Island for everybody with 2 big thumbs up. Obviously, that's a little different than my previous review with The Five Bloods that didn't do so well. Maybe it's not really for everybody. And, I'm going to have some reviews in the future that aren't going to be for everybody too. But I might actually get into some Quibi shows. I did some Apple TV shows in the past. Now I'm getting into Quibi. Maybe I'll do some Quibi shows. Really interesting format, I think. So make sure you keep an eye out for those on the channel. If you get 2 hours plus, check out The King of Staten Island. We watched it with a group of 5 people. You split that $20 rental cost amongst everybody, and it's essentially less than going out to a movie theater, which here in California, at least, we're not going to be able to go to for a while. But if you do need some more diversion during this time in quarantine, I got a ton of stuff on the channel. If you're looking for other stuff from me, where you can find me on social media, the books that are available, the screenplays, all of that stuff, you'll be able to find that at robertncheek.com. Make sure you check it out. All the links are available there. If you're looking for the Everyman movie review, I post about every episode and some stuff in between. Those links are down in the show notes. You'll be able to find us on social media. Thank you guys for joining me for this episode. Looking forward to bringing you the next thing. Like I said, the Quibi shows are probably going to be up, but hopefully something new, a new movie, something newly available like Uncut Gems, The Five Bloods, or The King of Staten Island will come up as well, and we can throw those in. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Have a great week, everybody.